anybody who cycles 2,000 miles. And even myself, a few years ago, I didn't even know that people cycle that far. I mean, many of us might have heard of the famous Tour de France. That's when the cyclists go and cycle all the way around France, and whoever, gets the best timings, they win, right? It's a very famous tournament. It's like in the world of tennis, there's so many tournaments around the world, but the main one everybody hears of is Wimbledon, which is the most famous one. So in the same way, people cycle up and down around the world all the time, but the most famous one is the Tour de France, and it is 2,200 miles long. And that is almost the exact same distance that we had to cycle in order to get from the UK, from London, East London in fact. We started in East London last year, 14th of July, and alhamdulillah, 36 days later, we reached Medina, cycled into Medina, alhamdulillah. That journey was absolutely amazing and probably the craziest thing I've ever done. Now, I wasn't aware of how much time I had. If I knew that I had perhaps a bit more time and flexibility, I could have perhaps also brought along a projector to show you a few pictures as to how we did the journey. Because, again, if you don't believe me, you've got to see it, right? And sometimes for us, some people seeing is believing. But I'll tell you as much as I can from my side here as a story narrator. And I want to start off by saying this much, that Allah made it happen from beginning to end. Allah made it happen. Not me and not any of my friends. I wasn't going on my own. I went with another 9 brothers. So in total there were 10. And interestingly, when we first started the journey, I hadn't cycled for several years. And I hadn't trained. So how on earth was I going to cycle 2,000 miles? Well, this is where it starts off from a long journey. And Allah makes things happen from an early stage in your life. You never know. You might meet somebody one day and that person might say something to you, and that person, what they say to you, you remember it 20 years later, and then you start practicing upon it. Something in life that happened 20 years ago could make you a different person many, many years later. And that's what happened to me. I mean, many of us, in fact, let me ask you here, how many of you here in this room have got cycles? How many of you here have got bikes? Okay, a few of you, okay? Okay, mashallah, brother in the back has got a cycle as well. It's one thing about cycle is that it's cheap to run. You don't have to pay for any petrol, okay? It's a fun way of getting out and about, and it's a very small object, so it's easy to store. So in so many ways, getting around on a bike can be quite fun. It is a bit dangerous, yes, because if you slip and hurt yourself, then your head could be, easily injured. And in fact, the other day, I was going down the stairs. I wasn't even cycling. I was going down the stairs, and I slipped on the stairs, and my head flipped backwards and hit the metal edge of the stair, right at the back where the spinal cord joins into the brain. And I was very lucky, alhamdulillah, I just happened to be wearing my cycling helmet, because I was going down the stairs to go out of the building and go on my bike. So I put my helmet on, and I went down, and my helmet that I was using at the time is the very same helmet I took my Hajj journey. And somebody from my town very kindly paid for this helmet. It's not a cheap helmet, it costs more than an average helmet. But it's a special helmet that sticks on your head at the top. But if you fall off your bike, and let's say you fall forward, the helmet rolls forward to protect your face. Quite a cool helmet. And if you move backwards, it'll roll backwards and protect your head at the back. So when I flipped backwards, the helmet moved backwards, even though it was locked onto my head. The back part covered the back of my head. I didn't feel any pain whatsoever. So I was very lucky, alhamdulillah, that nothing happened. So even going down the stairs can be dangerous. So when you're cycling on the road, you can pick up, if you're a young boy or girl, you can cycle around 5 miles an hour, okay? If you're a grown-up, you can cycle 15 miles an hour. In fact, on the bikes that I was going to take with me for Hajj, my average speed on a straight road is 20 miles an hour. And I can even easily, without much difficulty, do 30 miles an hour. I've known days when I've cycled across London quicker than I could get in the car. That's just the amazing thing of cycling. And when you go down a road on a hill, don't try this at home by the way, don't try this, is very dangerous. But if you go down a hill on a bike, you can go at speeds of 45 to 50 miles an hour. And the fastest speed I ever did on down a hill was 45 miles an hour. But shall I say honestly one thing? It was scary. It was really scary. Because not like a car, you've got the windscreen, you've got the cage of the car around you. If anything happens, you've got like an area where you're protected, yeah? If you're on a bike, you've got no protection apart from your helmet. And if you're going that far down the road and there's a little bump, you will go flying at 40 miles an hour into the road. That can kill people easily. And in fact, if you're cycling at that speed and the wind is blowing this way and it pushes you, that speed, you will go flying off your bike and you'll fall into the other lane, the opposite direction, and a car or a lorry could easily kill you. So there were fun things about cycling and also at the same time dangerous. So we wanted to see if we could somehow cycle all the way to Hajj. Now you might be wondering, why do we cycle to Hajj for? Everybody in the whole world, what do? They take a plane. Yeah? Most people take a plane. Only those countries which are nearby Saudi Arabia take a boat. Everybody else in the whole world takes a plane. So why couldn't we just jump on a plane? Why were we trying to be heroes and go on a bike? Firstly, I would like you to know, in the olden days, a long time ago, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and even before him, people would go for Hajj on foot. It was normal to go on foot. In fact, some of you, if you ask your grandparents, and your parents might tell you the stories about their grandparents, they might tell you that a long time ago, their parents or grandparents or great-grandparents walked for several months to get to Saudi Arabia. From Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka, from Afghanistan, from faraway countries up and down the world, people would walk long distances. It was a normal thing. So we, in the UK, if we wanted to walk, it would take us 8 months to get there. In fact, this year, somebody has said they are going to try to walk. And I think the only way they're going to get there is they started walking in February. They might get to Saudi Arabia by August. That's how long it takes on foot. But we don't have that time. I don't have that time. Nobody else has that time. We can't take that long time off work. So what could we do? Well, this is where we decided that if we went on cycles, we could do it much quicker and easier. But we would still be using our own body energy, so we would still be doing a bit of huffing and puffing and working, but at the same time we could get much easier and quicker there. And on a bike, if you do 15 to 20 miles an hour for several hours, in one day you can do around 80 miles, 80 miles. So imagine if you did 80 miles for several days and weeks, you could easily cover 2,000 miles if you were fit and healthy. This was a challenge. And what happened was, in 2016, I'm going to send you a bit back in history, okay, here. I apologize if I'm doing this too much, but this is how you get the idea of a story. So I haven't got any pictures here to tell you what's happening. You're only going to have to look at me and work out what's happening. That's the best I can do, unfortunately, today. 2016, so 2 years ago, I was living in Northampton, and my town of Northampton is 50 miles away, 50 miles away from Birmingham. Birmingham is a very big city. And a friend of mine called me and said to me, I heard you are an imam from Northampton. I said, yes. He said to me, where is your mosque in Northampton? I said, here's the address. I said, are you popping down? He said, yes, I am popping down. And then he said to me, have you heard of the Brothers on Bikes? I said, I think so. And when he said bikes, I honestly thought he meant motorbikes. I thought he was coming down on his motorbike with all these friends. And he said to me, no, you're coming on cycles. I said, yeah, but you're coming from Birmingham, that's 50 miles away. He said, yeah, I know. We cycled it. We were in your town. Where's the mosque? I didn't believe it. I thought, really? He cycled 50 miles. And then he said to me, we're cycling another 70 miles down to London. I really could not believe he was doing this, but I checked the group, and that is exactly what they were doing. They were cycling long distances. I was really impressed. I did not know people on a regular basis did this. And then a few weeks later, he called me again and said to me, we're doing another cycle ride. We are cycling from Birmingham to Oxford, which is 70 miles away. 70. He said there are two teams, one from Birmingham, going to Oxford. We're going to go to a farm. And in Oxford, there's a farm owned by Muslims. This is a halal farm. And on the other side, in London, from East London, there are a team of cyclists. They will cycle from London to Oxford. They will cycle 70 miles. We're going to cycle 70 miles. We're going to meet in the middle and have a little dinner together. And we're going to try to raise money for a factory in Palestine. This factory isn't any factory. This factory is a factory where they put water into bottles, and then you can give all the bottles out to the local neighbours, and people can get water to drink. And I think we all know, if you don't get water, you die. So imagine how much reward we would be getting if we could get enough money to buy this water factory, build it, put all the machinery in there, and then start making bottles you can give to all the local neighbours and old ladies and children, and everybody gets water. Inshallah, everybody will stay alive and healthy. So the idea was, if I joined them, I would cycle 70 miles, and then I would tell my community to sponsor me. Who's going to sponsor me and give money to the charity? Alhamdulillah, each one of us raised on average £500. So how many cyclists went in the end? 110. So you can imagine we raised over £55,000 in one day. £55,000, alhamdulillah. And Ummah Welfare Trust, the charity that was helping us, you might perhaps have heard of them, they, alhamdulillah, they commissioned the water plant and they built it. And alhamdulillah, it's made. With £55,000 we raised in one day. But what did we have to do? We had to cycle 70 miles in one day. And I'd never cycled that far in my life. By the time I finished and I was at the end, I was feeling really tired and absolutely drained. I felt good though. It felt a really wonderful buzz, cycling through all those country lanes. We didn't go on the motorway because you probably would die on the motorway. You can't cycle on the motorway. But we did go over the roads that cross the motorway. So we were going over the M40 several times. You can see all the fast cars going. Some cars were driving really close to us. We had to be careful not to get hit by another van or lorry. But alhamdulillah, all cyclists, apart from one in the end, managed to get there safely. One cyclist, sadly, his bike slipped. He went flying off his bike and he had to go and get an ambulance and take him to hospital. Allah, I pray he's okay now. Everybody else, alhamdulillah, we were fine. Even me, I was a proper rookie, right? I was a proper novice. I was at the first timer I'd ever done anything like this. Alhamdulillah, I got there in one piece. And when I got there in one piece, we all got into the farm and there was a lovely barbecue being made for us, right? And of course, when you cycle that far away, you feel absolutely hungry and starving. So as we were waiting for the barbecue, a brother from the big group stood up. He looked very, very strange. I haven't seen him before, okay? But he had long hair, like in Islamic style long hair, and a big beard, brown beard. And I'm not going to lie, he looked a bit like Jesus. Yeah? You know, you see pictures of Jesus everywhere in the churches. He looked like Jesus. And that's the first thing that I thought he looks a bit like Jesus. And he was an Englishman, he was a Muslim, revert Muslim. He stood up and he said to everybody, MashaAllah, you've all cycled this far, very well done. Guess what? My cycling team, we're doing another cycle charity challenge. We're going to cycle from London to Paris in the summer, 2016. Nearly 200 miles. They're going to cycle up to the coast, get a ferry, go over, cycle through France, get to Paris, stop there, chill out, and then go back. And they're going to try to raise money for another charity event, I believe it was for Syria. And then he said to everybody there, who wants to join us, let me know. I thought to myself, sounds like a really cool thing, but I thought 70 miles I just done, and that was a bit difficult. And here he is saying to me, why don't you do 200 miles? I thought that's a bit too much for me. I thought it would be a nice idea, and you get to go to Paris as well. Paris is quite a cool city, yeah? Quite a famous city, you know, but I just thought to myself, I'm not sure if I'll manage. And I didn't have my own bike. You know, for this journey, 70-mile journey, I had to borrow my friend's bike. Very quick bike, but it wasn't mine. I had to give it back to him at the end. So here this person is saying, join us. I didn't have anything to join them with. And that summer I was very, very busy. My father, bless him, he wasn't well that summer, so I couldn't go. However, in 2017, by this time, I was added to the social media group on the cycling forum. And on that group, somebody put up a picture. And the picture said, join the first ever London to Medina cycling challenge. 2,200 miles, which is 3,500 kilometers, by the way, which sounds even bigger, over 3 mountain areas, over the Swiss Alps, Greek mountains, and Egyptian mountains. And traveling through 8 countries, we're going to try to raise money for Syria. We're going to do it for a special charity. Who wants to join us? I thought, wow, this is cool. That is what I call the journey of a lifetime. You get to do your Hajj by cycling there. And there's only one thing you have to do. You have to apply online. So I applied online. It's like a competition, isn't it? You don't enter a competition, how do you expect your name to be taken out of the box and given the winner prize? You can't do it unless you enter. So I entered the online form, But before I entered it, a certain idea came into my head, and I want everybody to realize this, not because I'm boasting here, but just to remind us all, myself in fact, that when you do anything special, who knows best? More than anybody else in the whole world, who knows best? Allah. Allah knows best. Allah knows what the dangers are. Allah knows what could go wrong. So who do you ask? You ask Allah. And there's a special kind of prayer called Salat al-Istikhara. It's a special prayer when you pray 2 rakats of prayer, and then afterwards you make a dua to Allah, asking Allah and saying, oh Allah, if this is good for me, make it happen. If it's bad for me, please keep me away from it. And why did I ask Allah this? Because the idea looked really cool, yeah? I get to join the first ever group who are going to cycle to Medina. But what if something happens along the way? What if I'm not healthy enough? What if I'm not the right person for it? What if it's dangerous for me? In fact, last year, before we even got to Hajj, there was the Italian racing champion. I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to bother. Okay? But he was cycling in Italy, the Italian champion. And Italy is well known for its racing culture. A lot of people cycle that. He's a champion of his country. He's cycling and a van hits him and kills him. He got knocked down by a van and killed. I thought to myself, if the Italian champion hasn't got a chance, what's going to happen to me, my friends? So obviously you're going to need Allah's help. So I typed out the form. Before I clicked the submit button online, I moved away from my computer. I prayed 2 rakats of salah to Allah, and I asked Allah and said, oh Allah, if this is good for me, make it happen. If it's bad for me, oh Allah, somehow or other keep me away from it. I sent the form and I left it to Allah. 2 weeks later, I got a call from somebody. And the man called me and said to me, I've seen your application and I think it's interesting to see if you can join us or not. So he was narrowing down the numbers of people. 42 people applied, even from other countries as well. Internationally, people applied. And here he was giving me a chance. Somebody like me. If you look at me right now, those of you who can see me, I don't look very skinny, do I? Okay? I'll be honest, I don't look skinny. I look quite on the chunky side. And normally when you see cyclists, what do they look like? Very thin, very light. So I look the total opposite of a cyclist. And I hadn't trained much either. So why was he giving me a chance? I thought, you know what, Allah knows best. He said to me, can you join me and my friend? We're going to go for a big cycling journey around 50 miles. I want you to join us. So bring your bike. So I brought my bike that morning. And the brother said to me, meet me at this place outside a main road in Windsor. Windsor is just in Berkshire, the neighbouring county to London. And as he got out of his car, I recognised him straight away. He was the same man with long hair and the brown beard who I met the year before. Same man. And he said to me, my name is Abdul Wahid, and let's go and cycle together. So me and some of his friends cycled together. I hadn't trained for a good few months, but somehow or other, 50 miles later, I got to the finishing line in one piece, alhamdulillah. And then he said to me, that we've seen that you can cycle okay, but we want to know what kind of person you are. So you need to come for an interview. I said, fine, I'll come for an interview. I called him a few days later and I said to him, I'm coming to London this weekend, let's meet up and I can have the interview. But then he said something very strange to me, which I have not forgotten since. He said to me, nah, it's okay. You don't need an interview, you're one of us. Just like that, without me having to go for an interview, he made it clear to me, you're part of the team now. You are in the Hajj ride team. And then he said to me, so long as you train regularly, as much as we ask you to train, you will not be dropped from the group. We will stay with the group and inshallah you will cycle with us to Hajj. Brilliant. But the problem was now, I had to train almost every single day to get my legs strong enough to cycle 70 miles every single day for 4 weeks non-stop. So what I did in that Oxford to Birmingham route the year before, that was 70 miles, yeah? That was a one-day thing. Imagine doing that one day, and then the next day, and the next, and the next, and the next, for so many weeks. We had 6 weeks to get to Makkah, to Medina. So imagine having to do that much cycling. You can imagine, you probably think you have to be Superman to do something like that. I had to train and train and train. And if we didn't train enough, we would get dropped from the group. So then, I started making dua to Allah, and off I went starting to train. One day he would say to me, you have to cycle 70 miles on your own. Take all your equipment, no one's allowed to help you, off you go, cycle 70 miles, and upload it on your GPS app on your phone called Strava. And those brothers and sisters who do a lot of athletics, you know, there's an app on your phones called Strava you can download, and this allows you to let people track where you're going. So you can use it to tell people, look, I did 70 miles of cycling, there you go. That's how fast I went, that's where I went, and they'll prove to them you did train. So I had to do that regularly. And then we started to train in places like Wales, right? The country Wales, where the mountains are very steep and the hills are very high. And that was really painful, because when you are cycling on a normal road like that, it's easy. Trust me, it's easy. But when you are cycling up a hill, your legs start to hurt and hurt and hurt, because they get built up with lactic acid. You know, when you try to breathe, when you're exercising, if you can't get enough oxygen in, your body produces acid in the muscles, and this acid hurts your legs. It feels like your legs are on fire. So when you're cycling up a hill, your legs feel like they are burning. Yeah? And one of the men, when we were training, you could see he was crying. Can you imagine that? And you couldn't tell he was crying, obviously, because we all wear sunglasses. Not to look cool, okay, in case you're wondering, but because we have to stop the dust from getting in our eyes when we were cycling at fast speeds. So he was wearing sunglasses, but behind the sunglasses, he was crying. You could see the tears going down his face. And you knew that was not sweat, that was proper tears, yeah? That's how painful it was. We then trained in Morocco. We flew out to Morocco. We did 1 day of trekking up the mountains to get used to the height. We did another 2 days of trekking up the mountains on bikes. And those mountains were steep. And again, our legs were burning. And in Morocco, the temperature was 30 degrees plus. We had to cycle through the deserty areas as well. It was very hot, but we could not complain, because when we would go to Egypt on a Hajj ride, and Saudi Arabia, the temperature would reach nearly 40 degrees. So we couldn't complain or moan. Okay? This isn't the time when you could say you could complain or want a lovely place to live or anything. We had to cope with those conditions, because we were going to camp on our journey. We could only stay in a mosque if they let us stay in a mosque in the journey, or stay in a hotel if the weather got really bad. Otherwise, we had to camp, like everybody else does. Yeah? Get a tent, get camping equipment. It's not too hard if you know how to do it. So we trained in Ramadan as well. Okay? And even in Ramadan, when I was training in Ramadan, I needed something to get my legs working smoothly, because in your knees, especially a guy as heavy as me, right? When you got a lot of weight on your knees start to grind inside themselves. So there's a special liquid in between your bones called synovial liquid. It kind of keeps your knees nice and oily and smooth, all right? And if you don't have enough of it, your knees start to get painful. So what happened is the local butchers in my town, they gave me a big bag of animal bones with special bits of the bones. And the bones have got very jellyish liquid on them. And when you boil that for 6 or 7 hours in a big pot, the liquid, the jelly bits turn into liquid. And the liquid is very thick, but when you drink it, that liquid goes into your arms and into your knees and keeps your body oiled. I used to drink a pot of that every single day. And alhamdulillah, my knees never once hurt me throughout the whole journey. Even though I was a person who probably would have got the worst knee pain of the whole journey from all the cyclists. Because all the cyclists were much skinnier than I was. Okay? So then after Ramadan, we trained a bit more. Finally came the date they were about to leave. 14th of July 2017. We had to get to the London Mosque, the East London Mosque, and after Jummah, we were going to cycle off. And I remember, before I left, I was saying bye to my mum and my dad, bye to my brothers and sisters. I've also got a daughter, okay? I was really sad to leave her. Something very strange happened though when I was saying bye to my daughter. My daughter is only 3.5. Little sweet girl. And when I was saying bye to her, because I had to drop her off to her grandmother's house, where she was going to stay with her mum for a while. So when I said bye to her, I said to her, like I talk in a very sort of daddy kind of voice. And I said to her, sweetie, are you going to miss daddy when daddy's gone? That's exactly what I said. And I was trying not to stop crying, because I missed her a lot, right? You know, we all miss our children. And I was sad to see her go. So I said to her, sweetie, are you going to miss daddy when daddy's gone? And then she said to me something really, really funny, but amazing as well. She said to me, and I'm quoting the exact words she used. She said to me, no daddy, because you're going to be back soon, inshallah. And I'm not training my daughter to say the word inshallah. I don't force her to say the word inshallah. I don't even know she knows what the word inshallah means. Seriously, I don't say to her, say inshallah in every single sentence, like some people do. Okay? Use inshallah when you're about to do something So if I say to you, I'm going to go to the bank tomorrow to get some money, you say, inshallah. You don't say inshallah when you come out of a restaurant and say, I had a lovely meal, inshallah. It was delicious, inshallah. You don't use inshallah there, okay? You know when to use inshallah. So my daughter said inshallah, and I was shocked. I did not know she knew the word inshallah or how to use it. And I took that as a sign from Allah. Because in history, in Islamic history, there are stories where somebody said inshallah and something strange happened. So when she said inshallah, I took that as a sign that Allah has listened to my daughter's dua for her daddy, and Allah is going to bring her daddy back soon, inshallah, as she said. And here I am, back in the country. MashaAllah, many months since I came back, alhamdulillah. And my daughter was reunited with me shortly after I came back, alhamdulillah. So Allah Ta'ala accepted her dua. When she said that, I stopped crying. I couldn't cry anymore. Because what was there to cry about? Allah had accepted her dua, and that was a positive thing for me. That I was going to come back home safely, and it was going to be a success. However, the next day, as we went to East London Mosque, so many people out there waiting for us. I had to dress into totally different clothes from what I'm wearing right now. We're not cycling in this clothing, of course. I was wearing cycling clothing with my name on my jersey, big logo at the back saying Hajj Ride, and then 3 o'clock on that day, we cycled off. 2,000 miles started from that moment. And we had to cycle all the way down to the coast, and then we cycled to the coast, got to Brighton, and at night time, when it was dark after Maghrib, when we got there, we decided, even though we had a hotel that was booked for us, we thought, forget the hotel, this is Allah's house. It's nice to sleep here. Most of us slept in the mosque. And mashallah, whenever we slept in the mosque on our journey, we got a lot of energy in us. So then we carried on the next day with better energy in us, cycled to the nearby ferry, cycled onto the ferry, got off our bikes, parked the bikes in the downstairs area where the cars are, went upstairs, relaxed for 2 hours, came back down, picked up the bikes, cycled off the ferry into France. And we cycled through France until we got to Paris. And up until the Paris joint, there wasn't just 10 of us, there was also another 25 people who had joined us just for the London to Paris summer trip. So they were there just to give us a bit of a boost. And it was very nice that they were there. They stayed with us for 2 days. Then, after 2 days, when we all got to Paris, by the way, when we got to Paris, we cycled past the Arc de Triomphe, we cycled past the Eiffel Tower. We could not cycle near the Eiffel Tower though. You might be wondering why. Kind of obvious reason. If you've got 35 people as bids cycling towards the Eiffel Tower, somebody might wonder what you're up to. And obviously we knew what we were doing there, but obviously we had to persuade everybody else of that. So we didn't cycle to near the Eiffel Tower, we had to cycle from a distance and then stop there and say, here we are, we've made it. Then the next day, 25, all the London to Paris brothers, they left. And now, it was just 10 of us. 35 down to 10. And, remember I told you the year before that, the London to Paris route, I skipped it. This year, I was doing the London to Paris route, and it was just a warm-up. We had done 180 miles, 180. By the time we got to Paris, we had 1,800 miles left. So we had a lot of cycling to do. We cycled through France over 4 days. MashaAllah, beautiful scenery, but we didn't find anywhere to find halal food. So we had to cook our own food. We had to camp. In fact, it took us 3 days to find a shower. It took us 3 days to find a shower. Now in this country, you find a shower everywhere, right? But there, can you believe it? 3 days before we had a nice, proper, fresh bath. But that's what it's like sometimes in life, isn't it? That you only value something when you're taken away from it for a long time. And then, alhamdulillah, finally, at the end of our France trip, we managed to find a mosque on the top of this big hill. Beautiful mosque. And when the brothers heard, and we spoke to them, I spoke to them in Arabic, because most of them were from Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia, those countries. So when I spoke to them, I told them what we were doing. They could not believe us. But when we showed them all the pictures and all the online news feeds, because there are a lot of social media following us, when they believed us, they said to us, you're staying with us tonight, you're not camping anywhere, you're our guest tonight. And then one of them said to us, have you had anything to eat? And by the way, in this journey, we used to eat as much as we could. Okay? Who here likes Nutella? Anybody likes Nutella here? Nothing wrong with it. I like it. Here's my hand myself, okay? Nutella is quite a nice thing to eat, but it's quite fattening, yeah? It's pure sugar and pure fat. But on this journey, we had jars and jars of Nutella in our van. What we used to do is, when we would stop for a break we used to get biscuits and dip them inside. We used to get spoons and dip them inside. You know why? Because when you're cycling, you burn over 3 to 4 days worth of food in one journey. Because you're cycling, lifting your body up hills, down here, down there. You burn so much energy over 8 to 10 hours that you feel hungry like anything. So we were really hungry at that point. And I said to the man, don't worry, we'll get food. I said to him, لا بس نحتسب الطعام من أي مكان. That's Arabic meaning, we'll find food somehow. He laughed and said to me, you don't know anybody around here in this town? It's a town called Belfort in France. He said, you don't know who's halal and who isn't? We'll get it for you. You just relax here. He went off and he came back half an hour later, and I'm not joking. You know you get the Subway footlongs, yeah? He gave us foot-long wraps, but each wrap was that thick, stuffed full of pure chicken shawarma. And as hungry as we were, we could not finish our wraps in that one meal. In fact, the next day for breakfast, we had more of the wraps. And in the afternoon, we had more of the wraps. But the next evening, there was still so much of the wraps left. We could not finish the food. There was so much barakah in there. And exactly what we needed. Because when you finish cycling, you need all that muscle to get your legs back to working condition. The next day, we cycled into Switzerland. Half of us stayed in Switzerland and performed our Jummah in Switzerland. It was the first Jummah of our journey. The other half of the team went into Germany. So half of us in one country, the other half in another country. And when we prayed our Jummah in Switzerland, mashallah, there was a Bangladeshi brother who took us around the Switzerland area, showed us some lovely areas in the town called Basel. Basel is a very beautiful city, very clean, very healthy. There's a big fountain in the middle, and you can go up to the fountain and just drink the fresh water, because the fountain comes from the local rainwater from the mountains. MashaAllah. It's a very lovely city. When we left there, we cycled into Germany, and all of us stayed together at a mosque in Germany. Can you believe this mosque in Germany? They don't let anybody stay there at night. Not even for i'tikaf in Ramadan. Now in the UK, in all mosques around the country, everybody lets you stay for i'tikaf, yeah? Can you imagine a mosque in Europe, they don't let you stay for i'tikaf? Because the government don't allow you. So, the mosque for one night only, they let us stay. Very nice of them. The next day, as we were about to leave, the police decided to pay us a visit. The police wanted to know what 9 to 10 people were doing cycling into Germany looking like Muslims, with our beards and with our hats. And the number one rule, and I want to say this to everybody here as a lesson, you know, sometimes when people come up to us and ask us, why are you Muslim for? Or they might give us any, you know, aggravated behavior. Don't panic. Don't panic. Remember, a lot of people, they don't know what Islam is about because they haven't heard enough about Islam. And our job as Muslims in this country, and you can do that whether you are 5 years old or 50 years old. So long as you have a good behavior around you, you can show the non-Muslims that actually, we're Muslims, we're cool. So to wear a topi, to wear a qalansua, to wear a thawb, or a jubba, or Punjabi, to wear Islamic looking clothing, for a sister to wear a hijab, niqab, jilbab, these are not haram things. This isn't a crime. To wear that kind of clothing isn't a crime. Is this a crime in this country to be a Christian? It's not a crime in this country to be a Muslim. Alhamdulillah, we are who we are. So the point I want to make is, if somebody asks you what you are doing and who you are, tell them very calmly, yes, we are Muslims. We believe in Allah. Say it in a polite and calm way. And I'm telling you this for a reason, because when the police first came to us, surrounded us with 2 cars, and said to us, what are you doing here? We took out all our papers, showed them who we are, and after we finished, the police were laughing and joking with us. And when they said bye to us and said, have a good journey, wish you the best of luck. So from the beginning, coming out looking at robots, out of the police cars, acting really angry in what you're doing here, at the end of it, off you zen, bon voyage, blah, 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 whatever they said, right? I don't know how they say it in German, but it was a very nice way to say it. So they showed us that, you know, if you stay calm and show people what you are, inshallah, people will realize there's nothing to be scared of. And that's the most important form of da'wah in our time. Da'wah is not to go up to somebody and say, be a Muslim. Da'wah is to go up to somebody and say, this is what it is to be a Muslim. Do you like it? And if they like it, then embrace it. And if you haven't shown them a good job of Islam, we need to improve. Anyhow, we carried on our journey back into Switzerland, cycled through Switzerland, through the Swiss mountains, and boy, those Swiss mountains were dangerous. They were really steep. On one mountain, by the time we got to the top, some of the brothers had cycled through a thunderstorm, through the clouds. they were above the clouds. It was absolutely dark and wet and cold by the time we got to the dock. We had to stay in a hotel because it was too cold. We would have probably frozen to death if we stayed out in like tent area. And then the next day, we sailed into Italy. So 2-3 days later through Switzerland, then through the Italian mountains, and then we cycled up to Venice. People have heard of Venice, right? The place with the lovely canals. It looks nice, but actually there's a lot of stuff in that city that isn't Islamic. Can you believe, again, just to prove how easy it is for us Muslims in this country, and how difficult it is for Muslims in other parts of the world, in Venice, shortly after we left, alhamdulillah, not before we left, but after we left, there was a rule in Venice, in the city of Venice alone, if anybody in public said Allahu Akbar, they would be shot dead. If you read into the news last year, you find what I'm saying is true. The mayor of Venice passed a law that anybody who said the words Allahu Akbar in public, they will be shot dead. They didn't care if you were saying Allahu Akbar because there were 10 of you about to pray with Salah when you were stopping for your bikes. They couldn't care. All they cared was, if you were saying Allahu Akbar, it means you're a threat. Can you believe that's how difficult things are for some people in Europe? Here in the UK, you can say Allahu Akbar, nothing happens. Once again, we've got a job on our hands to prove to people that saying Allahu Akbar isn't a dangerous thing, it's a blessed thing. We continued then, through Italy, through Greece, and alhamdulillah, then over Greece, we crossed over, when we got to Venice, by the way, something dangerous happened. We ended up going on the Venice Causeway. I don't know if anybody here has been to Venice, but if you have been to Venice, to get to the main canali area in Venice, you've got to cross a 5.5 mile long bridge that goes over the water. When we got onto that bridge, we got stuck between the fast lane and the tram lane. We had to cycle at full speed for 5.5 miles. And I'm going to point out something else. This is 10 o'clock at night, and already we had cycled. I cycled nearly 100 miles. Some of the brothers in the group were cycling 120 miles in one day. We had to do 2 days of cycling in one day. And on that road, I was very lucky my bike lights did not fail. Because if my bike light went off at the back, the cars behind me would have killed me. Or the tram would have killed me. That's how dangerous it was. Can you believe it? So subhanAllah, in this journey sometimes, we ended up getting very close to death. In fact, we went to another little baby country called Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein is a baby country. You know how small it is? It has only 37,000 people living there. 37,000. Not million, thousand. That's probably the population of this area of London alone. Just this area of Leytonstone and Stratford. Get that area together, you probably got 40,000, 50,000 people already. And this is a country, a little baby country called Liechtenstein. And it's a rich country. People who own property there, they are multi-millionaires. But the funny thing is, on that night, when we cycled into that country, nobody gave us anywhere to stay. Even the immigration centre, which had a spare area, they would not let us in. The security people kicked us out. Only one man let us stay somewhere for the night. If we didn't stay with him for the night, we'd have had to camp out in the cold. We'd have literally frozen. That's how cold it was there. Or catch some flu or cold. One man gave us a space. Who was he? He was a Syrian refugee. Syrian refugee, he had nowhere to stay, but he used to stay in an office that his boss used to let him sleep in. And he said to us, you stay in my office, in the next room, make sure you leave at 6 o'clock in the morning. If you don't leave by 6 o'clock in the morning, my boss is going to see you, I'll be in trouble, the police will come over. So if any of you happen to be in Liechtenstein on that early morning, and he saw a bunch of cyclists coming out of this building looking like a bunch of zombies, because we were so tired, we had no sleep, then it must have been us, the Hajj riders. We had to leave, and then once again, before we left the country of Liechtenstein, the police saw us, and they stopped us again. And they interrogated us again. Alhamdulillah, nobody did anything to us, but once again, it just goes to show, in this country we are so lucky. Can you believe in Liechtenstein, the mosques don't even open? If you want the mosque to open, you've got to call somebody and say, is the mosque open? Get me the key. Otherwise, the mosque is not open for Salah. Here in the UK, you've got nearly 2,000 mosques which open 5 times a day. And there in Liechtenstein, one of the richest countries in the world, people there are very rich, but they don't even have a mosque that opens 5 times a day. Once again, we are so lucky in this country. We then crossed over on a ferry into Greece, cycled across Greece. The temperature in Greece was already 38 degrees. Last year there was a heat wave, you might have heard of it in the news. that went all through the whole of Europe, we got stuck in the middle of the heat wave. It was so hot on one day, I had to stop cycling, because if I cycled on that day, I would have collapsed and gone into a coma. That's how hot it became. When we got into Athens, Alhamdulillah, we managed to get a flight over to Egypt. By the way, in Greece, one thing I must admit, in Greece, the people were very, very nice to us. There was an elderly Muslim lady who looked after us there, called Mirinda. And she gave us free food, let us stay on a campsite, did everything for us. And when she left, when we were about to leave, she gave us some money to give to charity. When you consider that people in Greece are struggling financially, she still gave money and said, here, give this money to the poor people. MashaAllah, Allah bless her. We met lots of Muslims along the journey. It was a nice get-together. We had lots of support from different people. And in Greece, wherever you went, there was lots of fresh fruit on a tree on the roadside. You'd find fresh grapes, fresh figs. Figs are mashallah beautiful, and they're mashallah blessed fruit in the Quran is mentioned as well regarding them. And every now and then you can go past the mountain and you see a big stone block with a tap in the middle. Turn the tap on, fresh rainwater off of the mountains comes down into the tap, ice cold on those hot days. Everything we needed in terms of food we had, alhamdulillah. Even the non-Muslims looked after us. Very nice atmosphere there. So once again, sometimes when we see non-Muslims, let's not get scared to speak to them. Tell them who we are as Muslims. Show them that we are normal humans. They will feel relaxed and comfortable around us. When we then have to take a flight over from Greece to Egypt, we then have to take our plane because there was no boat to take us across the sea. So then when we got a flight over to Egypt, one of the brothers got stopped because of the fact he had already been in Egypt before. Only on that reason, he got sent back to Greece. Allah bless him. He cycled all that way to Greece and Egypt, and then he got sent back to the UK. And another brother in the group, same thing happened to him. Sadly, we were 10 men, now we were down to 7. 2 of the men were sent back to the UK, and 1 man had to drive our special van all the way back to the UK. So now, 10 men down to 7, we now have to cycle across Egypt without our own bikes. We have to get new bikes. And we have to then cycle through the Egyptian desert. The Egyptian desert already was hitting temperatures of 38 degrees. And we had to cycle nearly 300 miles in 3 days. That is what you call deadly. If somebody said to me 20 years ago, one day you're going to cycle 300 miles through the Egyptian desert, I wouldn't have believed them, but I had to do it. And the government wanted to know every place we stayed at. Now, I'm not saying anything against the Egyptian government or the people there. People were very nice, very nice. People in Egypt, mashallah, looked after us very well. But the problem was we could not stay anywhere else apart from the towns we were told. And we couldn't stop anywhere in the middle for the night. We had to cross 90 miles every single day. So on the last day, we did 96 miles from a town called Ras al-Khalid all the way to a big city called Hurghada. 96 miles in 38 degrees temperature. And by the way, I wasn't even feeling well that morning. I was feeling seriously ill. I had a headache, my stomach was hurting, I still decided to cycle. 96 miles, and you know how hot it was? When I had a water, you look at those water cages in your, bottle cages in your bike, and you take your water bottle out to drink when you need it, yeah? I took my water bottle out, I wanted to drink it on this day. The water was so hot, I could taste burnt plastic in the water. The bottle had melted into the water. That's how hot it was. 38 degrees. I couldn't drink it because it tasted like poison. I poured it over my arms and it felt like my arm was stuck in a hot shower. I had to just pour it on the floor. What a waste of water. But what could I do? It was that hot. Can you imagine cycling 96 miles through that heat? How many days do you think it took? Anybody want to take a guess? How many days it took to cycle 96 miles in that desert heat? Anyone have a rough guess? Anyone want to be brave and take a little guess? No? Sorry? 1 day. Okay, somebody's thinking I'm a superhero. He's saying 1 day. MashaAllah. Come back to you in a minute. Yes? 3 days. Somebody's saying it took 3 days. 1 day to cycle 96 miles in 30 degrees temperature. Do you expect me to open my shirt and see a Superman logo there or something? Good try, by the way. I'll tell you the truth. And if you don't believe me, check this out on YouTube, because our videos on YouTube as well. If it's not on YouTube, I'll have to come another day and show you. Right? We cycled 96 miles in 5 hours. 5 hours we cycled 96 miles. in the Egyptian desert in that heat. And you might be wondering what we did to cheat. We didn't do anything. I tell you what happened. On that day, Allah Ta'ala sent a powerful wind. That wind was behind us. So when I was cycling, that wind was pushing us and pushing us. It was the most powerful wind in all of Egypt. It's so powerful, literally, they've got windmill farms to get all the air out of the area, to get all the energy out, because the air is so powerful and proper stormy. So we were cycling through a sandstorm. And the sunglasses, I've still got them in my car right now, just parked the road. My sunglasses that I used on the trip, they've still got sand stuck in the rims from the sandstorm. And that sandstorm pushed us at speeds of 33 miles an hour. 33 miles an hour. And I just sat on my bike, spun my legs nice and slowly, and the wind kept pushing me. I got to the end, 5 hours later, I was absolutely fine. I should have collapsed and needed to go to hospital. Alhamdulillah, nothing. I was absolutely fine. Went to the hotel, took a shower, got all the dust and sweat off me, wore a new set of clothes, came downstairs, absolutely fresh. You would not have thought I cycled 96 miles in 38 degrees temperatures of the Egyptian desert. That's a miracle of Allah Ta'ala. Allah helped us on that day. That is one of the 3 miracle days that we saw in that journey. Okay? Then we took another flight after a while over to Saudi Arabia. When we got to Saudi Arabia, then, mashallah, lots of people already knew that we were coming. In fact, I was at the airport in Jeddah, and a cute little kid came up to me, and in a funny American voice, quite clearly he must have been some American country or something like that, I don't know where he's from. He came up to me, and I wasn't wearing cycle clothing, I was wearing a jubba. And he said to me, "Are you the Hajj riders?" In that American voice. "Are you guys the Hajj riders?" I looked at him and I thought, wow, yeah, it is us. How do you know it's us? And he had this big grin on his face, and he said to me, "I saw you guys on TV." So quite clearly, somebody has sent videos of us up and down the world. In fact, I got a message from Central America, from Panama. I got a message from Algeria that I was on the news. He took a picture of me and said, "You're on the news in Algeria." A brother in my university said to me, "In Morocco, you're on the news in Morocco." We were on the news in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in India. In many countries around the world, word has spread. Hajj riders have now made it to Saudi Arabia, then get near to Medina. And then, we were stopped outside, somewhere outside Medina. We were given fresh new bikes, and we started to cycle into Medina. By this point, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday the 19th of August. The temperature was 47 degrees. Can you imagine cycling several miles in the desert in that heat? That's where, once again, the power of dua comes in. One of the brothers in the group raised his hands and said, "I pray to Allah it rains." When I was getting my bike out, I noticed the sky was a bit dark. I looked up, and a big, thick, chunky cloud had hid in the sun. And then it started to rain. And rain, and rain. And then with us, there was a news channel cameraman. And he said to us, "You guys are going to move. Because if you don't move, we're not going to get good video of you going into Medina. Because we need the rain to stop. So we need you to get moving. Get going, guys." That's how quickly the rain came. And by the time we started, the temperature had dropped to 42 degrees. And like that, we cycled. The other 2 brothers, who couldn't stay with us, they went back to the UK, right? They got flown in, and they joined us. So all 9 of us were back together again. And we had 2 police cars, one behind us, one in front of us to make sure nobody crashed into us. We had an ambulance just in case. We had a Saudi cycling team with us, and we set off on the same road that the Prophet ﷺ used to get into Medina. And when we got into Medina, subhanAllah, as we cycled in, we turned the corner, and there in front of us was Masjid al-Nabawi. We could not believe it was there. I can honestly say, I thought somebody got a massive cardboard cutout and stuck it at the back of those buildings, and that's the Masjid al-Nabawi. I could not believe I was here. And all that pain, all that fear, all those times we were crying and worrying about family and getting back home safely, everything was vanished. That moment when I cycled on that last road up to Masjid al-Nabawi, I've never experienced anything like that in my life, and I don't think I ever will again. Absolute amazing feeling. I even took my phone out just to take a video, and then I thought to myself, what am I doing this for? Forget the video. This is my time between me and Allah. I want to enjoy it. Put my phone away and carried on cycling. We got to the gates. As we got to the gates, we stopped and got off our bikes, and there was a large crowd of people who wanted selfies taken with us. I had people left, right and centre speaking in Arabic, speaking in Urdu, speaking in Bangla, speaking in Hindi, saying, "We want pictures taken with you." The police were literally grabbing people and saying, please, surah, moving everybody away from us. and then the cheeky police had their own selfies taken with us. You see a picture online of any police officer with a picture of a man wearing a big cycle jersey saying Hajj ride on it, that's us. And that cheeky police officer should not have done that, okay? But that just goes to show everybody wanted to get in there, right? We then walked into the masjid every week, still dressed in our cycle clothing. We didn't want to go to the masjid because we were covered in dust and sweat and we weren't dressed properly. And how could we go in front of the Prophet ﷺ or go into the masjid like that? So we stayed outside in the courtyard area and prayed salah. And I was very lucky that it was Maghrib time. We had finished Maghrib in the masjid with the Imam, but we missed the Imam's Jama'ah, so we had to do our own prayer. And when we did our own prayer, they asked me to be the Imam. So there I was, dressed in cycle clothing as an Imam. And if you ever see a picture of all these people cycling in cycle clothing, doing sajda on the floor, in front of them you'll see a green helmet. That's my helmet. I put in front of myself when I was praying my salah. So that if you're wondering who that person is, it's yours truly, okay? And I'm not saying that to boast, I'm simply saying, Alhamdulillah, Allah gave me that opportunity and honor. In fact, a relative of mine had a dream, and in that dream he saw that I was the Imam of Masjid al-Nabawi. And I told that to my mum. My mum said to them, well, guess what? Saifullah has got to Medina, and he's, mashallah, prayed his salah in Masjid al-Nabawi. So the dream came true, amazingly. And Alhamdulillah, after that moment, we then got taken to a big hotel by the government, looked after, and then one journey of 2,000 miles of cycling through rainstorms, through thunderstorms, through sandstorms, through every storm we could think of. And here we were now, alhamdulillah, now about to start our Hajj. The Hajj itself is a journey of a lifetime. To get to this Hajj, you might have thought we used cycles, yes. But did you know, a little fun fact, we used a minibus, we used a coach, we used a plane and a boat, of course. We even used quad bikes. We even used camels. We even went on speedboats. We even went on a parasail, like a parachute that's pulled along by a boat. On this journey, we used every form of travel that you could think of in this one journey to get to Masjid al-Nabawi. And that was a blessing of this journey. Allah Ta'ala made it happen from beginning to end. And by the way, remember I said last year, the Italian champion, he got knocked down by a van and killed. Guess what? We had to cycle on the same road. The guy who put the route out, he made a cycle in the same road, and I only found out afterwards that happened. Cheeky move of him. But subhanAllah, 9 of us cycled 2,000 miles through all those roads, and everything that happened, alhamdulillah, not one of us needed to even go to the hospital once. We all got there to Hajj, performed our Hajj, and came back home safely. Alhamdulillah, I went back home to see my sweetie pie daughter, alhamdulillah. There you go. That's what you call a story which has a very good ending. And once again, if you don't believe me, I don't blame you. Okay, sometimes I wake up and I think to myself, is it a dream? But then every now and then, my mum and dad like to pull up the YouTube videos and like to watch me because I'm their son. And then I have to remind myself, yes, it happened. And who made it happen? Allah. So this is a little lesson for everybody here. When you're doing something in life, never stop. Keep going. If I stopped halfway through that journey and I thought, I'm not going to get there, I wouldn't have got there. But what did I have to do? Keep cycling, keep moving, keep learning, keep doing things, and alhamdulillah you'll get there. So if you want to finish the Quran, keep reading, keep practicing. Maybe 2-3 months, maybe 2-3 years, inshallah, one day you'll finish. Maybe you're training to be a doctor. Don't give up. Keep working hard. In several years' time, you'll graduate as a doctor. Whatever you do in life, never give up. That's the beauty of Allah's kindness. If you keep working hard, Allah will get you there in the end. I pray that Allah looks after you all, and Allah gives you, inshallah, one day the ability to cycle maybe towards Hajj, or maybe to anywhere else in the world for Islamic reasons. And I pray that Allah looks after you all and makes sure that you grow up as good Muslims who serve the community and show the non-Muslim community of the UK what it means to be a true Muslim. And I pray that because of you boys and girls, Allah makes many other people become good Muslims as well. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah to you for listening.